So earlier this year, Gust released Atelier Yumia, and it was a pretty big hit, selling over 300,000 units in about a week, and receiving one of the highest Metacritic scores for the series so far. So in pretty much all accounts, it was a win. However, some of the fans of this long-running series didn't love it. They felt that it was a departure towards a more darker tone, real-time combat focus, and overall just a more serious atmosphere that kind of lost the charm factor of the earlier game. So now we have Atelier Resleriana, and this one kind of gives the older school fans some much needed love with this title. Set in the mobile game universe, this console release is nothing like the gacha counterpart though. Instead, we get a fully fleshed out adventure and returning Atelier characters that are from pretty much every single series that ever came out. So this game tells the story of Ryza and Slade, and it's about two young people who kind of unite over tragedy, which is kind of different than what I expected. The personal stakes here, I think, are really compelling, as Ryza seeks to kind of restore the shop of her missing grandfather, and Slade is investigating the memories left by his late father. So both of them kind of have this similar vibe, and it makes them relatable to each other. And upon meeting, I think both of these protagonists are really well done right away. I think Ryza coming to learn alchemy and becoming a great alchemist, while Slade uses these Gust cores, which open up these gateways to the dimensional path. So together, they're working to basically figure out what to do next in their life and where they're going to go. And I really like this. I think what elevates this journey even more are the wanderers from the different Atelier universes. So you got the veterans like Sophie, Totori, Wilbel, and these all provide, in my opinion, great support, but also this kind of mentorship. Like, they've been through these journeys and they're here to help them both, and I really like that. And even some like little small things, like when you first get to Tori or Sophie, when they're reading books together to learn recipes, they're looking at it together and they're pointing out what to do. Stuff like this gives that real connecting feeling of all these alchemists are in it together to make the world better. I was really just happy to see that come all together in this game. Now let's talk about some of the gameplay. So the combat has been scaled back from the very quickly paced Yumia style, and even more of the active turn-based style of Ryza, and more of a traditional turn-based system. If you're a fan of the older, like Mystery or Dusk or Arlen Saga games, you'll find more at home here. And there's some noticeable differences that I've never seen in some games. Now, I haven't played all of these games. I played all of the Arlen, I played all of the Dusk, I played Ryza 1, and I played Yumia, and now this. And the biggest thing that I found in this game that was new was the block feature. So in this game, you can block when you're getting hit, and that kind of decreases the damage, of course, but if you block just at the right moment, you will greatly reduce the incoming damage. So it gives you something to do when your opponents are attacking. Think kind of like Expedition 33, not nearly as focused. That is much bigger in timing and, of course, countering. And on top of that, you'll have the ability to utilize all 6 characters, which is really nice. And switching them between the front row and the back row to, form these devastating combos is awesome. And strategically, kind of just picking a normal attack versus a special will help you not only increase your unity bar, but it's also to perform killer specials. But also, at the same time, you want to lower your enemy's stun gauge, so that way you can just beat the ever-living shit out of them when they have no more. So in short, the system isn't brand new. You probably see most of these features in other RPGs, but the return of a traditional turn-based system with some twerks that make it one of the stronger systems in the series for me so far. Now, outside of the combat, your main objective is a few things, but as always, since I've been reviewing these games for so long now, is you collect stuff and make stuff. That is my motto. So basically you run around and you harvest items and then you use it in alchemy. It's simple, but it's effective. And you do it pretty quickly in this game, which is a plus. Very similar to Yumia. I will say, if I have to mention a negative so far, I feel like the moving around and in this environment definitely feel a bit more floaty and unpolished, at least compared to Yumia, which just kind of felt like more of a natural progression for the series and a higher budget, so this feels a little bit of a step back there. On the flip side, alchemy again is another huge feature, of course. What's cool about this is that you discover new items in this game by combining different materials to make new ones, instead of just grabbing a book and them giving you a recipe. So this gives more of a mysterious feel, and I also like the new system of running a shop and building up the city and bringing in folks. I will say I do wish that it involved a bit more than just putting items on a shelf and selling them. I think maybe a mini game or selling items and coming back a few days later would have been more fun and would have been more involved in the overall growth of the city. But anything with building up stats or helping a city grow is just always fun to me. So it harkens back to like Atelier Resleriana. So I like that. I just wish there was more of it. I also think the art direction and just the overall style of this game is pretty. I mean, again, Yumia is definitely the main title now and has a bigger budget, but I thought this looked pretty good, especially coming from assets of a mobile game. This looked reasonably good. It's a lot less serious, of course, than Yumia 2, so fans that want more of that charming feel, I feel, will like this a bit more. And a really cool feature is seeing older characters kind of get a glow up with this engine. That's always a plus. I really like to see characters who obviously didn't look very good in the original games due to the limitations of the system look fully beautiful in 3D. And there's a ton of new areas. They're not huge, like Yumia literally had a map that was like Ubisoft size stuff. This is just kind of smaller, but they're pretty sizable, and I think overall they look pretty good. On the other side of that, though, the dimensional areas definitely feel very dungeon crawler, and they all look the same. You basically just go through a portal, and then you go through different parts of the weird map that you're on, which usually consists of like this kind of glossy blue stuff all over all the enemies and environments, or red if you go to a harder difficulty, and it's just kind of basic, and to me is easily the worst part of the game. It just kind of feels dull and lifeless, and it's just a way to pad out the game. So they only reward you with a couple of item upgrades here, and it's hardly ever to do with the main story. A couple of them you have to do to progress the main story, but all the normal and harder difficulties of these levels are just to gain more items. And while that seems fun for some, for me, it felt lifeless. But to round it up, I think the main story, I think the characters, I think the core fighting gameplay, and just the overall tone of this game is all really good. I think the creators here were like, hey, we got some older school fans who really enjoy these games, but they don't really like the direction Ryza and Yumia were going, so they decided to go back a little bit. I think the game successfully upgrades most of the features that fans love about these series. I think the small development time, though, hurt the game overall in terms of polish. I think the dimensional levels are more of a throwaway than anything. But at the core of the game, I think what they did here is it has a lot of heart. It feels like fan service, but it also gives you some great interactions between characters from different series that I really appreciate. If it was one more negative about the game, I would say I wish all of the meeting of different characters from different games was fully voice acted. Some of it isn't, which is a very odd decision. Maybe they couldn't afford to get voice actors for everybody to come back, but that part was a little bit disappointing. So while it's not a perfect game, I do still think it's a pretty great game. I think for me, I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. I was really worried this would just be a throwaway game since it came out the same year as their flagship title Yumia, but I have to say I really enjoyed it. Now, if I'm being honest, I did not enjoy it as much as Yumia. I thought Yumia was better, but as I'm saying, I don't like giving ratings that much anymore, but if I gotta give a rating for people, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's great, and I think it's worth it for old school fans. It's the same score I gave Lalula, so that's a really good sign, because I really enjoyed that thing as well. So I think even if you've only played the newer series, you should try this out to see if you like it, but I think old school fans will like it more, at least fans of like the Dusk and Mystery series. Again, it's not like the old like Rona and stuff because there's no time crunch or anything, but I think most people or most fans of the series are going to have a good time. I wouldn't say it's the best title to start with if you never played one, but you certainly can. You just might be like, who are all these characters? And as always, I really, really love the support you guys give. So if you could give me a like, that would be great. If you could give me a subscribe, if you want to see more video game, comic stuff, or just nerd out with me, hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next time. 未来を守るために貫け！俺は負けられないんだ。